Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Burgundy for EU4 1.33 France. So Burgundy is a nation located in Western Europe, sandwiched between the nation of France and their subjects and the Holy Roman Empire. Burgundy is one of the most fun nations in 1444 in my opinion, and one of the most powerful ones as well, with the ability to crush France in no time and then expand into the HRE and even form the super powerful nation of Lotharingia. As Burgundy, we start off with a couple of subjects. We have our vassal Nevers right here and our three junior partners Holland, Brabant, and Flanders, and we're going to be taking a hold of that land directly in no time. Of course, newer players might be deterred from playing Burgundy due to not being familiar with the mechanics of the Burgundian inheritance, which happens when this guy, Charles over here, dies. But by using this guide, you'll be maneuvering the Burgundian inheritance very easily, crushing France and forming the nation of Lotharingia and becoming the most powerful nation in the world. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Burgundy. Alright, so here we are as Burgundy, and the first thing we're gonna want to do is tick off a couple of missions. As we can see, we have the initial missions right here, which unlock the mission tree further down, and the first two missions that we're gonna want to deal with is placate subjects right here, where every subject needs to have less than 1% liberty desire, and English alliance, where we need to rival or ally England and insult them, and rival France and insult them as well. These two missions give us further claims and improve relations, which is really useful right at the start. And here are our subjects. As you can see, our vassal and three junior partners, and you may be asking yourself, how do we get them below 1% right from the start? Well, it's super easy. We're just gonna click on Holland and enable support loyalists, and we're gonna do the same with Flanders and Brabant. And with that, all of our subjects have less than 1% liberty desire. Then we can just go here and take the mission, which gives us a permaclaim on the Lorraine area, which is owned by Provence and Lorraine. And then we're just gonna go back into our subject screen and disable support loyalists. Super simple. And then we're gonna go into our estates and summon the diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna give the clergy religious state, clerical advisory council, and religious diplomats. We're gonna give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, aristocratic councillors, and we're gonna give the bourgeoisie land of commerce, patronage of the arts, commercial advisory board, and indebted to the burghers. You might be thinking, why don't you take strong duchies? But we don't have two vassals yet, and here's how we're going to be getting two vassals. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back into our subjects, click on Nevers right here, and seize land. And we're going to take the province of Rethellois from them. There we go. That will make them angry a little bit, but it's honestly not a big deal at all, and you can totally just placate them once or twice to get them down to more loyalty. Next, after we've seized Rethellois, we're going to be releasing a nation, and that's going to be the nation of Champagne. And boom, there we go. Champagne pops out from Rethellois that we seized from Nevers. It's now a level 3 fort, which is super strong, and they have cores on these four provinces right here owned by France and their subjects. And now we can give the nobles strong duchies, and with that, all of our subjects are loyal again. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna click on Nevers once again and enable scutage. This means that they pay us some more money, but they won't be called into our wars, and we do want this to happen because they have a level 1 fort right here. It gets sieged down super quick, and they'll just use up valuable war score. So no need to have Nevers in any of our wars. And then we're gonna seize land. Now it's time for some alliances, but first we're gonna check if we have a Diplorep advisor. And if you do have a Diplorep advisor, you are gonna hire him no matter what level he is. You're just gonna fire him and get the improved relations guy after you've gotten your alliances in order. And there we go, I hired mine. And now it's time to ally some nations. Now we're gonna want to ally three nations right at the start here: Austria, the Pope, and one of Castile and Aragon, or maybe even both if they're not rival to each other. As you can see, I can ally both of them, but they're rival to each other, so I'm gonna have to pick only one. And here's how you're gonna pick one of them if you can ally both. You're gonna right click on them and see their provinces of interest. And as we can see, Castile right here, they don't want any land in France. Let's take a look at Aragon. Aragon does want land in France, so you're gonna want to ally whichever one of these two guys wants land in France, and that for me is Aragon. I'm also gonna royal marry Austria right here, and as soon as the diplomats are back, I'm gonna ally the Pope and ally Austria as well. And now we can set some rivals as well. You're gonna want to rival France, England, and Provence or Savoy. I'm gonna rival Provence. Now it's also time to build up our army a little bit. As we can see, we do have 10 professionalism, so we are gonna slacken it twice, and we're also gonna turn off the forts while we're here since they are really expensive, and we have a lot of them, and our force limit is 23 3 right now, but either way, I do recommend getting 4 more infantry regiments. Now it's time to chill and ally the guys I set to ally and wait for the surrender of main war to fire, where France is gonna fight England. And there we go, a couple of days have passed and I've already allied all of these guys. Austria sent me an alliance offer, and once both of your diplomats are back, you're gonna insult England and you're gonna insult France. And with that, we can take the Mission English Alliance, which gives us improved relations plus 25% for 20 years. Awesome. At this point, after you've gotten your alliances in order, you can fire your Diplorep guy and get the improved relations guy instead. And at this point, we can also tell our 3 lightships here to protect trade in the English Channel and go home during war. And at this point, you can also start currying favors with whichever one of these 2 guys you're allied to. In my case, it's Aragon. And with the other diplomat, you can improve relations with your subjects, whichever one has the lowest opinion of you. In my case, I guess it's Brabant. And there we go, the surrender of main war fired in my case super quickly actually. And if a couple of years go by, and if the main war doesn't fire, basically if England just gives main to France, you should just restart since it's only been a year or 2. But after this war has happened and France and England are at war themselves, it's time for us to prepare for our first war as well, which is gonna be against France. And after a little bit of time has passed and France has been in this war for a year or 2, it is time for us to get ready to declare as well. So raise all your forts, get your army together. I did get 2 more infantry regiments, and it is time to hire a general. Don't put Philippe here in charge of an army, he's gonna die. So just get a general. There we go, that's my guy. And as soon as my forts are a bit more garrisoned, I'll declare. And there we go, it's time for me to declare. I just had to wait around a little bit more because Aragon stopped wanting land from France and I had to curry favors with them, but you will be able to call them in whether they want land or whether you do it with favors. I am currying with Austria as well, so I might be able to call them in after a few months have passed. So it is time to declare on France while they're still at war with England for the reconquest of one of Champagne's cores like Reims right here, and boom, it's time to declare. You can beat France just by yourself and with one of your allies helping you. It's not going to be very difficult. Just try to avoid battles because France does have really strong generals right here at the start. And you should also tell all your subjects to siege. Nevers shouldn't be in this war. And of course, while you're in this war, France will end their war with England as well. And it's different for everyone what they'll take. In my case, they took Maine and these 2 provinces down here. I did forget to mention that before you declare, you should get a mill advisor as well, preferably a morale, discipline, or fort defense level 1 guy. I don't have a level 1 out of any of those guys, so I'm just gonna get this manpower guy. And there we go, while I'm in this war, I can also call in Austria, which is excellent. You won't necessarily have to do this, but you can do it if you want to. And once you have around 60 to 70% war score, it's totally fine to peace out and take what I'm gonna show you to take in the peace deal. But if you feel like you can definitely go all the way and 100% France, then you should do it. But if not, it's totally fine to peace out during this war score percentage. And France has started coming back, so I am gonna peace out at around 90% war score here. And here's what we're gonna take from France in our first war. Obviously, we're gonna give all of Champagne's scores back to them, so these 4 provinces right here, and this is valid for if you peace out at 60% too, and at least 1 province down here, which is Gascon culture and has a Gascony core on it. Now, France may have taken these provinces in your game too, but if they haven't, it's still totally fine, and you can still do it in another way, which I'll show you now. So I'm gonna take Bordeaux right here. It's a very good province to take if France has taken it from England. Don't take Labourd, even though Gascony has a core on it, because it's Basque culture. You can't release Gascony from this province right here. But if France hasn't taken Bordeaux from England, you can simply do this and take Berry, La Marche, and then Limousin right here, and you can release Gascony from that province as well. So if France doesn't own this, do this, but if they do own Bordeaux, you should take it. And that's it. No money, no war reps, nothing else. We don't want to max out the war score too much. We don't want to have a long truce with France. We're not going to humiliate them, nothing like that, and we don't want too much aggressive expansion. As we can see, it's pretty similar. 33 if I take Bordeaux, and if I take Limousin, it's 42. Not a very big difference. So that's our first war with France. The Champagne cores and a province to release Gascony from. And boom, that's our first war done. We've gotten Champagne all of their cores back, and we can also release another massive subject, Gascony, and reconquer a massive amount of cores that they own in southern France. Now that this war is done, it's time to chill for a few years and recover, because we've probably taken quite a few loans during this war. As we can see, I've taken 12 myself, and war exhaustion is pretty high for me as well. So it's time to chill a bit before moving on with further wars. Once this war is done, you should be improving improving relations with France's subjects because we do want to complete the mission League of the Public Weal, which requires us to have 3 French subjects that have 100 opinion of us. And after that, all of the French subjects will gain plus 50% liberty desire, and we also gain some permaclaims as well. So just check all of France's subjects, which of them have the best opinion of you. In my case here, Auvergne has plus 34, so I'll start improving with them. And once we get them to around 100, I'll improve with other guys. And with this other diplomat right here, you're gonna want to spy on England and gain some claims on these provinces up here. If they still own them, they'll for sure have Calais, but you can spy for all of them if they still have them in your case. Of course, once you do have Tech 4 in all categories, you can activate the Encourage Development State Edict in the state of Eastern Burgundy and Dever Capital Dijon up to 30 for the age ability and to speed up the spawning of the Renaissance slightly. Yes, I know what you're thinking. At this point, we are way over our relations limit. As we can see, I'm 9 out of 7 right here, but that's nothing. We'll be going a lot more over that as well. But no worries, since all of these subjects that we have and all of the subjects that we will have will be directly owned by us very soon. By this point, Philippe may have died, in which case you have Charles on the throne, just like me. And if you're unlucky and the Burgundian succession happens before your second war with France, then I'm sorry, but you might have to start this game over, because this whole strategy relies on us purposefully triggering the Burgundian inheritance by abdicating with Charles right here. And by following this guide, you can only do that after you fought France for the second time, which is gonna be pretty much when our truce runs out. At this point, you have merchants in Bordeaux and the English Channel. You should take the guy from the English Channel and tell him to collect in Champagne. This isn't the most optimal setup for trade, yes, you're right, but what we actually want our merchants to do is establish communities for even more improved relations. And you're gonna tell both of them, the guy in Bordeaux and in Champagne, to establish communities. Ideally, you'd also still have your improved relations guy. For your tier 2 government reform, you should of course take strengthen noble privileges. By this point, France may have annexed a subject or two. It's totally fine. And once you get 3 French subjects with above 100 opinion of you, you can take the mission League of the Public Weal, and we gain some permaclaims on these areas right here, and the French subjects gain liberty desire. As we can see, all of them are disloyal here in my case. And yes, France did annex Auvergne in my case, but it's not a big deal. Now that we've accomplished that mission, we can try and look for our next target. It's probably gonna be Provence, England, or maybe even Savoy, but if you don't feel like you can fight any of these guys because they might have strong alliances or something like that, it's totally fine not to fight anyone. And now that a little bit of time has passed, I will be declaring my next war. You should be doing the same if you can, and you'll be fighting one of England, Provence, or Savoy, whoever is the easiest to fight. Like I said, if you can't declare on any of these guys, if they have strong allies, like in my case England is allied to Castile and Portugal, then it's totally fine. You'll just be waiting for your second war with France. But now I'll be declaring on Provence, since they're not allied to France anymore, since France didn't defend them from the Pope. And by the way, right now I'm just helping out Aragon to get their PU over Naples back. I didn't declare on these guys. So it's time to declare on Provence. Now, I did just get a new champion of the Joust event, and I just got one of the most insane generals I've ever seen without all of the ideas that contribute to better generals. He's a 4-6-4-5. Like I said, the most insane general I've seen without ideas. And of course, you should use guys like this, but I'm not gonna be putting this guy in charge of any army because that might influence my wars a little too much. So let's pretend I never got him, but I just wanted to show him off because he does have 5 siege pips. And if you're fighting Savoy, what I recommend that you take from them is at least these 2 provinces right here, and then whatever else you can without getting too much AE. Don't go above 30 or 40 aggressive expansion. If you're fighting England, of course, they might only have the province of Calais, in which case you're gonna take it, but if they have some more stuff over here, you can totally take as much as you want from them in continental Europe. However, if you're fighting Provence, just like me, here's what you're gonna take. Of course, we did declare directly for one of Provence's provinces, but we also have claims on Metz and Lorraine on their subject Lorraine. Now, if you take these 2 provinces right here, Lorraine might actually break free from Provence since they'll be a lot weaker, and if they break free, they'll end up automatically in the HRE because their provinces are in the HRE. So, from Provence, I recommend that you actually take the entirety of Lorraine. Full annex Lorraine, that's it, and then just take war reps and all their money and stuff like that, and then leave Provence be, because we don't want to lose these provinces when they end up joining the HRE, which will make it super difficult to fight them. So just Metz and Lorraine in your war with Provence. And that's our second possible war done. Like I said, you may have fought Savoy or England or no one at all. It's totally cool. Now it's time to chill until our second war with France, which in my case is in about 4 years. For first stage ability, I do recommend that you take Justified Wars. And when you reach Admin Tech 5, it is going to be time for your first idea group, and for your first idea group, I do recommend that you take Diplomatic Ideas. Now, you might be thinking, hey, that's awesome, new diplomats, new diplomatic relation slots, but that's not really what we're taking it for. We're not really taking it for the amount of subjects and relations that we have. What we really want here is the diplomats to improve relations with outraged countries so we don't get coalitioned. Of course, the diplomatic relation bonus is great, but we won't be needing it pretty soon. The improved relations is insane. We will need that quite a lot. The Diplo Rep is awesome. Province war score cost will enable us to take more in less wars, and the lowered impact on stability from diplomatic actions will help us rack up a few PUs along the way. So Diplomatic Ideas for your first idea group. And you will want to focus on dip. Once you get 50 papal influence, you will be able to take the mission Papal Relations, which gives us even more yearly papal influence. And you'll probably also be able to take the mission Feast of the Pheasants, where a bunch of nations that like us gain a Holy War CB on the Ottomans. This is some historical thing, I don't really know, but this won't be a lot of use to us. And once your truce with France is up, it is time to declare your second war against them, where we're going to be retaking Gascony's cores, and most importantly, the province of Paris as well. So it's time to simply declare on them, call in your boys from previously once again. In my case, Aragon wouldn't join right now, but either way, France are weaker, so we don't really care, and declare a reconquest war for one of Gascony's provinces that is not owned by one of France's subjects. So I'm just gonna declare for Labor right here. And it's time to go beat up France once again. And once you've completely decimated France, as you can see, I full occupied them and they don't even have any armies left. It is time to piece them out. And here's what you're going to take from France in this second war against them. First, you're going to want to give Bordeaux all their cores back that are owned directly by France. Because as we can see, they have cores on Armagnac in these 3 provinces and in Foix in these 2 provinces right here, but we don't need to give those to them because we're going to be getting those anyway. So just give them back these provinces right here, I think they are. Yep, that's right. It's these 4 right here, along with Labourd, of course, depending on what France owns. And of course, we're also going to be taking their capital, Paris. And if you don't own these provinces right here, you can also take these to connect your lands down to Gascony. Of course, if in your first war you already took these because you couldn't take Bordeaux, then that's totally fine, and there's no need to do anything else. So Gascony scores back on France's provinces, Paris, and connect your lands. No money, no war reps. That's it. And that's our second war with France done. Now it's time to chill because we probably do have quite a bit of aggressive expansion. Now after you wrap up your war with France, what you really want to pay attention on is the truce with France. When does it end? In my case right here, it ends in 1484. And basically, you want to have the Burgundian inheritance not happen until then. So you've already invested around 30 years in this campaign. At this point, if Charles over here dies and the Burgundian inheritance gets triggered, I recommend just simply Alt F4ing and safe scumming for it to not happen, right? I mean, we all do it. There's no shame in admitting it. It's whatever. But that's what I do recommend. Don't let the Burgundian inheritance happen until your truce with France is close to running up. But once you do core up the province of France, you will be able to take the mission King of the Franks, where all of France's subjects that they still have, which in my case it's Armagnac, Bourbon, Foix, and Orléans, will become our subjects as well. Boom, there we go. And now we just got a ton more vassals. Of course, these guys will be disloyal since they calculate their combined strength, but listen, it's not a big deal at all because we own those provinces now too. And at this point, you know, you can just tell all your diplomats to improve relations with own subjects. And yeah, at this point, you might be way over relations limit and losing diplo points. It's fine. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. For your tier 3 government reform, you should take centralized bureaucracy. While you're chilling and waiting for your second truce with France to come to its end, if you're not fighting any wars, you should focus on building up your nation, deving provinces once you have some extra points, building buildings, and stuff like that. Of course, you're going to want to build marketplaces in the center of trade provinces, and you can totally build them in your subjects as well, along with production buildings. And now that I've chilled for a few years, I'll be declaring my war that's in between waiting for truces, this time versus Savoy. Now, of course, we would get claims on Savoy from this mission right here, but since I haven't integrated Nevers, I don't have those claims yet, so I just built up one manually on Brescia right here. You, of course, could also declare on Savoy, or on Provence, or on England. It's totally up to you. Or you could once again not declare on anyone. Once you hit admin tech 7, you will be able to take your second idea group, and I recommend either taking offensive ideas to buff up your army or economic ideas to buff up, well, your economy. In my case, I'm gonna be going with offensive here, but both picks are great, offensive or economic. And when you fight Savoy, and of course this should be after 1460, so they're not in the HRE, I recommend taking about 2 or 3 provinces from them. Once again, we're chilling with AE until we get done with the Burgundian inheritance and become really, really powerful. So in my case right here, I'm gonna take these 2 provinces, that's only 22 AE, we're good. And I'm also gonna take the province of Geneva right here as well, along with war reps, transfer trade power, and all their money. And that's my war with Savoy done. You should also take 2 or 3 provinces. And by the way, yes, in this war, I am using this guy. I had to use him once, man, come on. And once your second truce with France is close to running out, as we can see, I only have about 4 months left here with mine, it is time to start getting ready. For what, you might ask? Well, for the Burgundian inheritance. So raise army maintenance and raise your forts and get ready to fight pretty soon. And you will also want to call all your diplomats back. And there we go, now my truce with France is up, and we can purposely trigger the Burgundian inheritance and annex all of our subjects all at once. Of course, you will know that your heir will have a weak claim no matter what, because that's how it works. The Burgundian succession crisis makes every heir have a weak claim as time ticks on. Now, this guy started off as average, just like anyone, with 50 claim strength, but he has ticked down to 0. So now at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna abdicate with Charles here if he's still alive, and of course he should be, because like I said, I do recommend saves coming to keep him alive until your second truce with France runs out. And let's see what happens. Boom, there we go. And here is the Burgundian succession. We got Marie on the throne right here. We got a different heir, blah, 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 to everlasting friendship. That doesn't really concern us. But what does concern us is this pop-up right here, the Burgundian succession. And we have 3 options. Come what may, Burgundy shall remain Burgundian, and basically we remain as we are. France will declare a restoration of Union war on us, and Austria will ask us to release all of these guys up here into the HRE. Then we have the von Habsburg Prince will do nicely. We will become a junior partner under Austria and inherit all of our subjects. And then we have let us reintegrate with the French, where once again we'll inherit all our subjects, but this time we become a junior partner under France. Now, newer players might think the first option is the best and we should remain independent, right? Wrong. We will become a junior partner of France. So select the third option, let us reintegrate with the French. And boom, just like that, we've inherited all of our subjects and we're a junior partner under France. But most importantly, because we waited for our truce with France to run out, we don't have a truce with France. We can declare an independence war immediately. But first, some things are in order. At this point, you will be able to take a couple of missions, most notably integrate Nevers, and we'll gain claims down here in Savoy. You may or may not own some of these provinces, and we can take the mission Unite the Realm, where we gain Diplo power, tax, and a monthly autonomy change for a couple of years. And now at this point, don't delete any armies or navies. So get all of your navies and put them together in one province. I'm gonna send them to Picardy right here. Let me just get the rest of them. There we go. So all the navies are going to Picardy, and I'm also gonna get all my armies now, and I'm gonna get them together in Paris, for example. And we're also gonna be stating everything that we own, because it'll be automatically full stated since we get it from subjects, so we won't need to full core it twice. And yes, you might go over governing cap at this point. It's not a problem at all, trust me. So full state everything. And there we go, I've full stated everything except the provinces I took from Savoy, and now I'm just gonna wait for all the armies to go to Paris and all the navies to go to Picardy. During this time, we're also gonna do something else. We're gonna ask French rivals to support our independence, and there should be a couple of them. France is pretty weak by this point. You will 99% of the time be able to get Austria again, which means you'll be allied to them once again, and you may get someone like Castile or Aragon if they rival France. In my case, Castile was rival to me, but that may change after the month ticks over, so let me wait and see. And there we go, now that the month has ticked over, Venice and Hungary will support me as well, and I'll ask them to support me as well, why not? We don't really need anyone's support since we're way more powerful than Burgundy, but these will be our allies after the war is done. And look at this coincidence, man. My army is 71,000 regiments, and my force limit is also that. That's pretty funny. Of course, we don't need an army this big. And there we go. go, while you're getting ready, if your heiress dies, you may get this event too, or you'd rather die than be French, and we declare war on France with the independence CB automatically. Now, this is an event, you're probably not gonna get this. Instead, as soon as you fix up your armies, core everything, and get your allies to support you, you're immediately gonna declare an independence war on France. Of course, now I don't have that option because I got this event, but it's all the same. Just declare independence on France. And the most important reason we were waiting for our truce with France to expire before triggering the Burgundian inheritance is because if you get the Burgundian inheritance while you still have a truce with France and you still choose the same option, you won't be able to immediately declare an independence war. And during that point, Austria may ask for France for the lowlands, in which case France might accept and we might lose all of this land up here in a matter that we have no say in. So that's why we had to wait for a truce with France to expire. But now, simply just fight France for independence. This is going to be the easiest war versus them yet. Of course, a bonus by declaring independence from that event is you don't lose stab, but it's not very likely that you're going to get the event. And of course, like I promised, let me not use this general right here, even though he's so good, and let me get another general instead. Now, during this war, you're probably going to be way over gov cap. Luckily, I did get a bunch of prestige events, and I was able to upgrade to a kingdom relatively quickly, but still, I am way over gov cap, so that's just something you're gonna have to deal with for a few years here while you're struggling with. It's not a problem, it's all worth it in the end. And once the war with France is done, of course, we are gonna demand independence, get 1 or 2 provinces, whichever ones you want, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna get Chartres and Auvergne, for example, and I'm also gonna get war reps and all of their money. And that's our independence war with France done. Just like that, we're a massive, massive nation, and the Burgundian inheritance is the best thing that's ever happened to us. Now, once you're independent, depending on how you got independent and how fast you did it, you might be able to take the mission Secure the Succession right here, where we have an option to join the HRE. But if you did it relatively quickly, just like I did, then you might have to wait until 1500 to be able to secure the succession. And in my case, I will wait till 1500 just to show you what to do. Now, during this point, if you're not in the HRE yet, you should look into allying as many electors as you can, because after this point, we are going to want to actually enter the HRE to be able to conquer all of these guys over here easier without fighting the Emperor, since we do need to own a bunch of provinces over here in northwest Germany in order to form Lotharingia. And even though you might be a kingdom now and still struggling with governing capacity, once you enter the HRE, you'll go back to being a duchy and have only 200 gov cap. So by allying electors and stuff like that, we do have a big chance of becoming the emperor, which will in turn turn us into an empire, so we won't have to struggle with that. So go ahead and ally as many electors as you can. Of course, you guys know the electors, these are those guys. Just don't ally the guys over here that you're gonna need to conquer, but you can totally go for someone like Brandenburg, the Palatinate, Mainz, and Saxony. You are gonna want to get 4 guys, and you should get the eastern guys if you can. Now, since our next wars are gonna be primarily in the HRE, at this point, if you're not in the HRE yet, you should focus on chilling and maybe fighting guys in Italy or fighting France. And now that a little bit of time has passed, like I said, I'll be declaring on Genoa right here because I can't fight in the HRE just yet. And now that I've beaten up Genoa, I will be taking a couple of provinces from them, once again with not too much aggressive expansion, so let's see what I can do right here without triggering a coalition. And I'll just be taking these 3 provinces right here, along with war reps and money. Expansion is going to be slow in the HRE and northern Italy. Now, when the Protestant Reformation spawns, and Bohemia is already Protestant because they were Hussite, you will get the disaster, the Dutch Revolt, where basically the Netherlands can break free. Now, ideally, this would happen after you're in the HRE, so you can move your capital to Amsterdam, but since I can't move my capital to Amsterdam since it's in the HRE and I'm just simply gonna move it to something like Bruges or something like that. We will want to move our capital to the lowlands region in order to prevent the Dutch Revolt from firing. Like I said, this should happen for you after you're in the HRE, so move it to Amsterdam. And there we go, I'm simply gonna move it to Bruges right here, and there we go, the Dutch Revolt can't happen anymore. We do want our capital in the English Channel anyway. Like I said, do it to Amsterdam, but if you can't, then move it to Bruges. For your naval doctrine, you're not gonna be using boats too much, so I do recommend taking merchant navy for ship trade power. I already have 17 lights protecting trade in the English Channel. And once the year 1500 exactly hits, you will be able to take the mission Secure the Succession. and let's see what happens. And there we go, we're in the HRE, just like that. However, if this happens to you earlier, and that would happen if you had a truce with France, there would be an imperial incident where the emperor gets to choose whether we enter the HRE or not. And of course, if you're allied to Austria, which you should be, and if they like you and stuff like that, they should let you in the HRE. If not, you can just Alt F4 it until they do. But that's the other way of entering, which happens before 1500, and this is the second way. And now we can also take this second mission right here, which gives us further claims in the Holy Roman Empire. Now, like I said, once we enter the HRE, we will go back to being a duchy. GovCap is insane right now. You can give these guys some privileges to increase GovCap. For example, I am going to take away Clerical Advisory Council from the clergy and give them clergy land rights, but I'm not giving it to these guys since I don't want to get stuck with 4 privileges and it'll be hard to remove them. Once you're in the HRE, that is a good thing. And of course, like I said, if you've been helling electors, these guys will vote for you and you can become the next HRE emperor, and then there's totally no need to leave the HRE at all. There's lots of awesome bonuses that come with being the emperor, and you don't really have to care about passing reforms and stuff like that. You can just take advantage of the basic bonuses. And by around the year 1500, depending on when and how you entered the HRE, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we started off as Burgundy and started down our mission tree by fighting our first war with France, released Champagne and took a couple of provinces from them before continuing down our mission tree to make their subjects disloyal, popping out Gascony down here in the south, and then in the second war taking Paris and retaking Gascony scores, which enabled us to take the mission King of the Franks, which transferred all of their subjects to us as well. And then later, by manually triggering the Burgundian inheritance by abdicating with Charles, we were able to integrate all of our vassals instantly for free and gain these vast amounts of territories before declaring our independence war versus France and getting free from them once again. And by this point, you should be in the HRE as well, either through this mission right here or through the Imperial Incident, which may trigger after you get PU'd by France if you don't declare on them fast enough. And by this point, you're a super powerful nation. As you can see right here, we're number 3 on the Great Powers list, about 750 dev, all of it or almost all of it owned directly by us. You may have popped out a vassal or 2 from France, like Toulouse down here to reconquer their cores as well. We have 2 big stacks right here, and by this point, you should have built a ton of buildings. As you can see, I got a couple of marketplaces going. I got a bunch of production buildings going as well in the high value trade good provinces. Of course, at the start of the game, we are overextending a little bit and we're not always making money, so you may not have built up your nation economically that well by now, but after this point, it's not gonna be a problem at all. After this point, you're gonna continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding, and most importantly, because we entered the HRE, we can start our conquests versus these nations right here in the west and northwest of Germany, because we do need to own 25 provinces in these certain areas that are highlighted on the map, basically in west and northwest Germany, in order to be able to form the nation of Lotharingia. And of course, like I said, you should have allied a couple of electors, and by now you may have even been elected the HRE emperor. As we can see here in my case, 4 nations are already voting for me, all 4 nations that I allied, and as soon as Ferdinand right here dies, I will become the HRE emperor, which of course will turn us into an empire government form, and governing capacity won't be a problem, even though we are gonna go down to a duchy rank when we enter the HRE. But by becoming emperor, that's not gonna be a problem at all. If you can't become emperor, of course, you're just gonna stay in the HRE and suffer the GovCap penalties until you take the provinces that you need to in order to form Lotharingia, and then you can just leave the HRE once again. Of course, after this point, you're not going to be expanding only in the HRE, since AE is going to be pretty high. Another alternative is dismantling the HRE, but I do think it is pretty fun to play around with it, so that's why I don't actually recommend dismantling it in this guide. But this is not the only region you're going to be expanding in. You're also going to push into northern Italy slowly. These are also super high dev provinces, so you are going to take it slow, and you're going to continue dismantling France because you do have perma claims on them, and taking everything in the region of France. Of course, when you become emperor, all of these French cultures will become automatically accepted, but if you're not, you can just manually promote them right here. And of course, like I said, after you enter the HRE, you should move your capital to Amsterdam to prevent the Dutch revolt. But if you're not in the HRE when it starts ticking, like it was in my case here, then you should move your capital to Bruges in order to prevent that disaster. And of course, you should be transferring trade from Bordeaux to Champagne and then to the English Channel. Right now, I have 19 light ships protecting trade in the English Channel. I'm building up one more, as you can see, and that's a very solid foothold, and we'll have an even bigger foothold once we take over all the center of trade provinces that England or France might own over here in Normandy. And you can even continue to expand in Great Britain as well, if that's what you want to do. And of course, later you will be taking all of these missions, which give you very nice claims on areas you need to conquer, and you will be taking the mission Crown of Lothair in order to form the super powerful nation of Lotharingia, and you should take Lotharingian ideas as well. As for religion, I do recommend that you stay Catholic. I do think it's super powerful. By having excellent relations with the Pope the entirety of the game, you will be able to take all the papal bonuses right here, which help out a lot. For our first idea group, we did take diplomatic ideas. This will help out with coalitions and with playing in the HRE massively. For our second idea group, we took offensive, but like I said, you could have gone economic as well. And if you didn't, then for your third idea group, I do recommend going economic. And then for your fourth one, you can go with something like quality or even aristocratic if that's what you want to do. So my recommendation, Diplo offensive, economic quality, and after that, it's totally up to you. For your tier 4 government reform, I recommend taking meritocratic recruitment. For tier 5, you should take general estates. Swap to royal decree when absolutism comes around. If you max out over 100 absolutism, you can swap back to general estates. For tier 6, you should take l'état c'est moi, and for tier 7, you should take political absolutism. But once again, if you max out over 100 absolutism, you can totally flip to legislative houses to have 4 admin policies instead of 3. Of course, as Burgundy, Lotharingia isn't the only nation you can form. You can also form the Netherlands, another super powerful nation. You can form France. France is really awesome too. But I really do think that you should form Lotharingia, a very powerful nation, very cool way to form them, very fun playthrough as well. So even though you can form the Netherlands and France, I still recommend 100% that you go for Lotharingia. And after you form Lotharingia and gobble up Western Germany, gobble up all of France, and gobble up Northern Italy, pretty much the entirety of Europe is up for grabs. You can go for Iberia, you can go for England, you can go for the entirety of North and South Germany, and you can even go for straight up Western European domination. You can do whatever you like. After you form Lotharingia, it is a very good nation for blobbing, and you will be expanding massively. You can choose to stay HRE Emperor, you can leave the HRE and then dismantle it. It's totally up to you what you're gonna do with your game after you form Lotharingia. And like I said, by around the year 1500 exactly, depending on when you enter the HRE, your game should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is gonna go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Burgundy from this date forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive, and if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot, and if you want to see more guides or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.